Greetings, crossfans. Welcome to Laatste Ronde. I'm Marty Mack. Thanks for joining me. What a final weekend of UCI cyclocross at World Cup action we had as we headed to Maasmechelen and Hoogerheide. Maasmechelen on Saturday, the elite women's race, really close as well. And this venue had a kind of rocky start. Into the world of cyclocross. It replaced Rukfam on the programme, and the first year, although it was a great course, the races were just marred by puncture after puncture. It's an old mining site, so there's a lot of stones and flints and rocks and everything that just work their way to the surface. The course has kind of been tweaked and developed over the years. On Saturday, we still saw punctures. We had a great battle in the elite women's race, and it did look like it was going to come down to that fight between Poel and Amandine Fouquenet. Lucinda Brand had already got the World Cup sewn up, and she was looking like she was struggling, and we found out afterwards that she's struggling with a bit of a calf injury, and she had up until that point 63 consecutive podiums, and unfortunately at Maasmechelen, that's where it came to an end. For Amandine Fouquenet, and I'm going to stop mentioning it in commentary now because I think the curse of the commentator can be a bit of a grim reaper of predictions sometimes, but 2007, Marilyn Silvertat is the last time that a French rider won a round of the Women's World Cup. So it's kind of a little bit like when the England men's football team go to the World Cup 1966. But it always gets mentioned. And I think maybe I'm mentioning too much. So sorry, Amandine. I'll stop mentioning it now. It looked great battle. She looked phenomenal, as did Poel who was putting those injuries that she had, back injury, and as she said in pre-race interview as well, a knee injury behind her. And in commentary on Saturday, we were just talking about Poel pre-race interview, because a lot of the time when Puck's interviewed before, it's, oh, this is a lot of fun and this is going to be great and I'm looking forward to this and this is really exciting. There was none of that on Saturday. There was like the red mist had already descended before she even got to the start line. You knew that she meant business, and it was those two that were battling it out, and unfortunately a puncture for Amandine Fouquenet took her out of that contention for the victory, and she was looking really good for it. Ceylin Alvarado coming through to take second, Amandine Fouquenet taking third, and Poel taking her first World Cup victory of the season. You could kind of sense that relief of Poel when she took that. As I mentioned, Lucinda Brand not on the podium this time. That run has to come to an end at some point, and hopefully, we really hope, because she didn't start in Hoogerheide on Sunday, that calf injury isn't going to plague her too much, and I'm sure the physios and all her backup team will have her ready for the World Championships in Hulst, because she has just had the season of seasons, and you wouldn't want Lucinda Brand to go into the World Championships, would we, without her being on top form. So we wish her well for World Champs Week. In the elite men's race, unfortunately, we had a big crash off the start line. Pim Ronhart, Joran Vistura and others going down. Joran was the rider that came off worst, and he was on the ground for quite a while, and we were worried. And the emergency services were with him. Luckily, afterwards, his Crelan Corendon team, after he'd been to hospital, announced that he was okay. There was no broken bones and no real adverse effects for that crash. So we wish him well in recovery before World Champs. Great start in Maasmechelen for Cameron Mason, really charged out into the lead. And Mathieu van der Poel, unbeaten in any cyclocross race so far this season. We go back to Benidorm in 2024, January 2024, where he finished 5th, which was the last time Mathieu van der Poel was beaten in cyclocross. Incredible record. And van der Poel was kind of sitting back a little bit in the men's race in Maasmechelen. Thibaut El Grosso making a move, and then van der Poel just putting down that big, powerful attack. I mean, he just goes supersonic when he goes. And we're expecting that scenario. Mathieu van der Poel rides away, wins a race. Yay! And we kind of run out of superlatives sometimes for when he crosses the line and he rides in just such a dominant fashion. But it wasn't to be. Front wheel puncture or quite a way away from the pits. And even someone with the silky smooth skills of Mathieu van der Poel was going to lose time. And he did. It meant Poel the G.O.A.T came past him. And by the time he got a bike change, he was going to have to fight to come back to that front group. So it was an interesting scenario. It made for a great race. He got through to the front. He went again. He got a gap only to suffer a rear wheel puncture. And this is something that's really rare. If we look back over the years, especially the last few years, having those kind of punctures and mishaps are really, really rare for Mathieu van der Poel. The rear wheel puncture, of course, a lot easier to ride on than a front wheel puncture. He got into the pits, got a bike change, and he was just getting on his bike when Thibaut Nace and the chasing group behind got up, and he got away again, and they didn't come back to him. And he came through and he equaled Sven Nace's World Cup victory record of 50 World Cup wins. Thibaut Nace had a great day out, but in his post-race interview, he said he just went from mistake to mistake to mistake. When he was on the front and tried to go clear, he took a crash. It meant that Poel the G.O.A.T and Niels van der Putte made it a 1-2-3 for the Alpecin Premier Tech team. So a great day out for them. We then went to Hoogerheide on Sunday, and it is pretty much, you've got to say, and it is voted a lot, the riders' favourite World Cup course of the season. It's played host to the World Championships on 3 occasions, and it will again in 2028. And it is the Grand Prix Adrie van der Poel. And we do wonder, having Mathieu van der Poel won it 8 times, you wonder if he does go in, he's like, here, Dad, here's the prize money. No pressure in winning that. Only Ailey Iserbit and Lars van der Haar have won it, not Mathieu van der Poel, in a long time. It's a great course. Crowds are huge in Hoogerheide. We start with that real powerful uphill start before we go into the field. We've got the Stairway to Heaven. Any Wayne's World fans will know that is just going through my head. Like, no stairway, denied. That's going through my head. If you're too young to remember Wayne's World, go and Google it. Watch the movie. It's a fun film. But the Stairway to Heaven is just before that big drop down into the start, finish straight, and you kick up the climb. Elite women's race, so no starts for Lucinda Brown and Ceylin Alvarado. So it was a great opportunity for someone to take a victory. And it was one of the closest races. And I think, for me, one of the best elite women's races we've seen so far this season. Poel Pieterse, you could see on sections of the course, was just throwing in these real little power attacks. Amandine Fouquenet looking really strong again, but kind of didn't capitalise maybe when she could have done. One of the funniest moments and most entertaining moments of the elite women's race was Zoe Backstead and Poel Pieterse smashing it on the front, going through a couple of corners, just having a chat. And it made me chuckle, and it just showed the real technique and skill of them. Zoe Backstead coming into really good form. She looked really, really strong in Hoogerheide. And we had that news as well that Zoe, although she was leading in the under-23 race in Hoogerheide, is riding in the elite women's race in the World Championships in Hulst. In the end, came down, you could see Poel Pieterse. She had the good tyres. It looked like her tyres were just sticking like Velcro through the sort of twisty, turny, fieldy section of the course. And you could see each lap, that was where she was managing to get a gap. And she made that big difference. She attacked out of big corner just before the bridge. She got away. Really powerful victory for her. Sara Casasola was also looking very, very good early on. And unfortunately, coming off the bank after the Stairway to Heaven, the off-camber section dropped down onto the road and slid out. And it is, again, it's that what might have been. But the Italian champ, ahead of World Championships in Hulst, is looking really, really good. Behind her, unfortunately, as well, Marie-Norbert Ribeiro clattered to the ground as well. So Poel Pieterse taking the win. But Kristina Zemanova, what a ride by her to take second place. Her best ever World Cup finish. Amandine Fouquenet finishing third. And in her post-race interview, you could sense that disappointment. And understandably so. That's the end of the World Cup. And so many podiums for Amandine Fouquenet this winter. But Kristina Zemanova, one of the riders of the season, you've got to say, the Czech champion. And with the World Championships a week away, where could she be in that? Is she a medal prospect? We have got Brand, we have got Alvarado coming back in, but I think it's going to be an absolute thriller, and on a course as well, you've got to say, that really suits the skill set of Puck Pieterse. She's won the under-23 title. Is this the year that she takes the elite one? The under-23 race was taken by Zoe Backstead, ahead of Victoria Kladanova, who had another phenomenal ride, coming from about the 5th row on the start up into that top 10. She took the second under-23 with Fleur Moores, another of this season's young sensations, coming through to take third. We saw Zoe Backstead on the podium in her under-23 rainbow jersey for the final time. As I've said, she's riding up in the elites at the World Championship, so that really does open up that race in Hulst. In the elite men's race, Mathieu van der Poel chasing the out-and-out World Cup record. 51 victories. Could he do it? Last year, it took him 4 minutes to get clear, and that was it. Game over. This time, it took him a little bit longer, but once he went, there was really no coming back to him. All the riders say, and you can see it, you've got to be right on the wheel of Mathieu van der Poel when he goes. Sven Nys had said overnight, he's the greatest cross rider of all time, and my records are there to be broken. And Mathieu van der Poel is now heading towards 300 career wins in all categories. So right from his youth days, right the way through to where he is now, he's heading towards that 300 victories. And you wouldn't bet against it. You certainly wouldn't bet your house on Mathieu van der Poel not winning the World Championships next weekend, would you? And he is now chasing that record of 8 victories for the elite men. Marianne Vos has got 8 wins in the elite women. Mathieu van der Poel's currently got 7. He's level with Eric de Vlaming. He was the greatest of his generation as well. But I think when I'm commentating these Mathieu van der Poel victories and his rides, and I say it week in, week out here now, is it something special? We are watching I think, the greatest cross rider of all time. I don't know if you would agree, but it's the way he wins, the manner in which he wins, the skills, the way that it doesn't matter what course, what conditions, whether he's coming back from adversity. He's not had it all his own way this season. And I think Wout van Aert said in an interview as well this week that the dominance is not the way the dominance used to be. And Mathieu van der Poel has kind of said it himself, that he is having to ride in a slightly different way. But it was a great ride. It was a great performance yet again. And he rode clear, and he took that record breaker, history maker. Mathieu van der Poel now has that out-and-out record, 51 career World Cup victories, and hopefully many more still to come. We had a great race behind. It was really, really bunched up. And Thibaut Nys, Thibaut Del Grosso, Niels van der Putte up there as well. Felipe Orts is really coming on to some great form as well. Filippo Fontana, the Italian national champion, taking his career best World Cup ride. The sprint for the podium, Thibaut Nys led out from the bottom of the climb. It's a gamble, but we've seen it pay off. When Mathieu van der Poel won the World Championships against Wout van Aert in 2023, he led out from the bottom of the hill, and Thibaut Nys took that gamble. Thibaut Del Grosso, though, we saw the sprint for him. We saw it against Wout van Aert in Zolder, just that power that he's got, and he came through to take second. But Thibaut Nys sat down, looked around as Niels van der Putte threw his bike at the line and snatched the 3rd place on the line. And you could sense in the post-race interview that Thibaut Nys was really, really frustrated with himself and disappointed. It is that whole thing, as coaches always say in sprints, drops not tops, sprint through the line. And he didn't. And great for Niels van der Putte to come through to make it a double weekend for the Alpecin Premier Tech team with 1, 2, 3 on the podium yet again. So Mathieu van der Poel takes the World Cup overall for the elite men. Lucinda Brand takes the elite women's competition. And I think we've had one of the best World Cup seasons that we've had for many, many years. We've had some really, really exciting races and some real emerging talents as well, which I think has made it all the more interesting. Now we head to Holst for the World Championships, and what a venue for the Worlds. For the elite women, I think it's quite open. Puck Peterser is on great form. Ceylin Alvarado is on great form. Hopefully, fingers crossed, that Lucinda Brand recovers in time and that calf injury that she's nursing doesn't kind of dent her challenge to take her second World Championship victory. Because I think the way she has ridden this season, she definitely deserves it. But there is no givens in cyclocross, and that is why we love our sport. As I mentioned, Zoe Backstead is riding up into the elite women's race. Top 10, top 5 would be a really good finish for Zoe in her first elite World Championships. In the elite men, Mathieu van der Poel, it is his race to lose. The battle for the podium is also going to be a really, really interesting one. Thibaut Del Grosso looks great. Thibaut Nace is on great form. Niels van der Putter, Felipe Oort as well. Because don't forget, we're going to have the big Belgian team. The Dutch team are going to be all in for Mathieu van der Poel. Any rider that rides there knows that they're riding for Mathieu. But Cameron Mason is looking good. And then Felipe Oort from Spain, he's going to have that freedom as well. So that battle for the medals is going to be really, really interesting. The under-23 women's race, I think, is going to be an absolute thriller to watch on that Hulst course. And looking at the riders that have been up there in the last few weeks, Victoria Kladanova, I think, is looking really, really good. Great climber, former world junior mountain bike champion as well, the Slovakian champion. She's got a good chance. Fleur Moors, can she have the luck and take that title? Celia Jarry, can she add the under-23 cyclocross title to the under-23 road title? Georgia Pelazzotti in the junior women's race. We've got Zoe Roach, we've got Peggy Knox. We'll have the Canadians coming in as well. That's going to be really, really interesting to watch. And then the under-23 men's race. I think there's some interesting riders. And as it always is, I think it's going to be really, really open. I hope you enjoy it as much as I will. I will see you next week. Don't forget, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. It's great to chat to you about cyclocross. I'll see you next week. Bye for now.